Okay, so in this video, I'm basically going to run you through a step-by-step guide to going to the gym for beginners. I wish I knew this stuff when I started because it would have made things 10 times easier. I'm holding up five fingers, but you know what I mean. Okay, so first of all, if you're someone that hates how you currently look and would love to have a body where you can actually see muscle definition, starting resistance training in the gym is something that you will need to do at some point. Okay, I've written the pieces out here because I don't have the memory of a fucking uh, turtle. I think turtles have long memory, but yeah, this is how I'm doing YouTube videos. So bear with me. Lifting weights is so powerful that for beginners, you can sometimes lose very little weight, but still make a big change in body composition. So it basically gives you room to make more mistakes with your diet, which personally I make a lot of. So I have to rely on resistance training a bit. Okay, so this is an example of one of our old clients, Paul. Here, there's about 10 kilos or less in the difference here, but you would think it's a small bit more, and he's essentially maintained the size, if not bigger, but he has more muscle definition because he's actually been training. And a lot of this as well was through home workouts, which makes it extra impressive. But it shows that it can be done, and you can make, by and large, the differences you want to make without losing as much weight as you think you might need to lose. Okay, so in this video, I'm not only going to show you how to reduce this gym anxiety that a lot of beginners have, but also how to go about setting up your first week in the gym step by step. Okay, so you can come back to this video and use it as sort of an instruction manual as well. If you forget, but what I do recommend is pausing this video now if you're sitting down with a cuppa, get out a pen and paper, a notepad, and start taking notes as I go through this. Okay, so going to the gym is something that genuinely scares a lot of people though, because they're afraid of being judged, which makes sense. You don't want to go in there and feel like you don't belong. Okay. At the end of this video, you'll have all the tools you need to finally build a body that you're proud of, and you'll be on the path to seeing visible changes in body composition. Okay. So this is like our client here, Cedric. If you do this stuff for a whole year, you could even completely transform your confidence and self-esteem with it. Okay. So keep the long term. Don't be just thinking about going to the gym for like 4 weeks or a short 6 week or 8 week burst. You want to become a different type of person here. So I'm going to give you the tools that you need, and I'm going to show you as well how to overcome some gym anxiety in this as well. Now, why am I actually teaching you this? Well, I run a lifestyle transformation program called the Self-Esteem U-Turn, where we help people that hate themselves, very crude term, but this is what people say, build a rock solid routine with their diet and exercise so that they can improve their body composition, which I'll show you more so in this, fitness levels and mindset, and create levels of self-esteem that they haven't had in years or have ever had. Okay. So we've actually helped over 300 people one to one build momentum with resistance training over the past 4 years. So I know what I'm talking about, including people that were absolute beginners, terrified of going to the gym at the start. So it doesn't have to be that way forever if you are currently shitting yourself at the thought of going into the gym. All right. Here are some of the biggest issues people have had with the gym in working with those 300 people that I want to address in this video so I can help you in the same way that we help them. Okay. So these are the talking points. I'm going to go through fear of what others think so you can overcome this gym anxiety. I'm going to go over the worry that you might have about poor technique and injuring yourself, knowing what exercises to do, knowing how much weight to lift, knowing how to progress then if your goal is toning up versus like strength training, it's maybe a small bit different, or cardio. What if you want to tone up specifically? How do you train for that? Well, that's what I'm going to show you in this. All right. So first of all, to cover the fear of what other people think, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Like in this video, people will judge you in the gym. A lot of people are busy doing their own thing. I get that. People will say no one pays attention. I won't bullshit you. Some people will pay attention. There's a dickhead in the gym. Sometimes you get lucky and there's not. If you go in and use the equipment wrong, some people will question your experience, your goals, and what you're doing. Okay. It's usually the people that have maybe not being that long in the gym that will judge you. People that have been doing it for years and years don't. And I think that's why some people come out and say, oh, no one pays attention to what you're doing. But if you have someone in the gym that thinks they know what they're doing, they're in there for 2 months and they see another beginner coming in, typically it's those people that will judge other people a bit more. Okay. However, people will also judge you for the exact same things outside of the gym. You have to remember this. Think back to your first day at work, your first few days driving, or your first day going into school or college or university, whatever you want to call it. Okay. You felt this exact fear of judgment before, and you have the track record to show that you could overcome it. The fact that you feel this is probably a sign that it's worth doing rather than avoiding. Think about what you get on the other side of overcoming your fear of judgment when it comes to driving for the people on the road, fear of judgment when it comes to going to school or university, fear of judgment when it comes to starting your new job. You actually get money at the other side of that. So it's always worth overcoming, and you've proof that you can overcome this before. Okay, so rather than thinking about eliminating the fear of the gym, spend more time planning what you'll do in there. So your focus is on you and your goals, and in turn, you'll notice less fear. So rather than trying to tell yourself, "Oh, don't think of what other people are doing," ignore them, try not to be scared. I think that's shit advice. If you just put all your attention on, okay, what's my plan of action for the gym? How am I going to train my chest? How am I going to train my bum? How am I going to train my legs? How long am I going to rest in between sets? How intense am I going to train? How do I figure out how to use this piece of equipment ideally before I go into the gym? Will I need to ask anyone? If you just make it all about you and you're selfish, then generally the fear will actually start to dissipate. There'll still be a bit of it there. You won't completely avoid it. But what will happen then is once you have one session in, the next session won't be as bad. And the session after that, even less so, won't be as bad. Okay. So, unfortunately, I've come here to tell you that I can't completely remove your gym anxiety, but I can help you overcome it. And the way you overcome it is by focusing on yourself, accepting that people are going to judge you outside of the gym. They always have. Fucking toddlers are the worst for judging people. They'll just stare at people. Okay, you're used to it. You've overcome it before. You can do it again for something that for something that's important to you when it comes to turning around your self-esteem. Okay. The other thing then people talk about is they're worried that they'll get their technique wrong. Sometimes this ties into gym anxiety because they're worried that they'll be judged, but other times it's like the fear of injury, right? Which is a very, very reasonable thing to be scared of. Um, so poor technique is basically means for you that you'll have a higher chance of injury, and you'll be the type of person that has to do more work for less results than what you could get otherwise, which we don't want. Like, that's much worse to me than the injury. This is very unappealing. I don't want to have to do more work than average for less results than average. All right. So good technique then means stuff you can do to reduce your risk of injury with every exercise, because well, obviously some exercises vary a bit. If you hold a dumbbell above your head, obviously there's way more injury risk than any other exercise. And then effectively challenging the muscle. So I'm going to teach you how to do these two things. All right. So you reduce the risk of injury by controlling the movement and not making massive leaps in the amount of work you're doing. This includes both weight lifted and reps. Okay, so when you control the movement, it's very unlikely you'll put levels of force upon your muscles, your tissues, your soft structures, etc. that it's not able to handle because you're controlling the movement. When you lose control, it's very easy to put levels of force on your muscles, ligaments, tendons, etc., that they aren't used to handling, and this can cause injury. Now, not only this, but it's also the cumulative, that's a hard word to say, amount of force and stress that you put on your muscles through repeated sessions. So if you're making huge jumps in weight, you're really kind of stacking on the amount of stress that you're putting on a muscle that it's not used to. So you want to think instead of making progress in gradual steps. It's called progressive overload. All right. This is the best thing that you could do to reduce injury risk. Keep in mind your recovery as well. You are able to adapt to doing more in the gym. That's why you see people doing 2 hour long workouts. Not that you need to do that, but this is built up over years. You don't want to transition to that overnight, and you definitely don't want to do your first 2 hour workout on a night of 4 hours sleep. All right. So when it comes to effectively challenging the muscle, then you do this by also controlling the movement, because less of it's done by momentum, which is something outside of your body, and more of it's done by the energy your muscle uses, and also by training close enough to failure, which I'll go into more in a second. It's less about technique, it's more about how hard you're willing to train. Okay. Every exercise also has a correct movement pattern, or correct, it can vary a bit, that when followed more optimally challenges the muscle. Again, our goal is to challenge the muscle, not just get blood into it for the sake of doing that. The only way to learn these properly is through practice, feedback, and knowledge. Okay, so I put in a note here for myself to point you towards our Skool group here. If I show you an example, what is the crack? It's Barry from the future here. So what I was talking about there is Obviously, it's also very important that you perform the movement pattern correctly. It's not just about the intensity or preventing injury. Okay, so something that we do in our Skool group, which is a community area for our clients, you can join this as you want, if you want. But what we do here is do form feedback. So we have a form review section in here where if I scroll down, it'll filter. People will submit their clips and I will give them recorded video feedback on how they can improve their form and their movement pattern. Kind of like how I'm recording the group there. Instead of recording the group, I will record your exercise videos that you submit, and then everyone in the group will benefit from them. It's not a judgmental place. People are pretty supportive. I have not seen one person yet give anyone shit for performing everything wrong. And it's actually really admirable for people to be able to record something in the gym, lean their phone up against a bottle of water, submit it into the group to get the feedback, because that's feedback then that they will be able to use continuously going forward so that they can get better results out of that exercise and enjoy the gym more. So if this is something that you want to join so that you can do this, you're more than welcome to join. I'll leave the link in the description below so you can learn more. So when it comes to knowing what to do in the gym, so like what exercises to pick, because there's like 100 things you could do. You might search different YouTube videos and they'll tell you to do certain exercises. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try and have you come away from this video with more concrete knowledge on what that looks like, rather than you walking away from this video being very confused. So as a beginner, all you need to worry about is just not forgetting any major muscle groups so that you don't develop your biceps and neglect your legs. Like uneven development basically is what that's called. Okay. And it's a good thing to kind of practice all areas as well, so that you're not like, you don't have a year of training upper body and you train legs for the first time. It's like you're going back to being a gym beginner. You don't want that, right? So the way I like to teach people this is by categorizing exercises based on the type of movement that's involved, so that even if you don't fully remember the names of the exercises, you have an idea of what they train and how they can help you. And that's my goal for you in this video as well. I don't want you to just have to like memorize an exercise like you memorize something for exams when you're back in school. I want you to have a more fundamental level understanding of the principles, so that you can kind of make things for yourself and not be worried that you're doing the wrong thing. So this is how I'm going to do it. Okay, and I'll give an example of a workout as well after this. So you have 5 categories. You could add like a few more here technically, but you have 5 categories and 4 that I really care about. You have push, which works the chest. You can see here the shoulders and the triceps at the back of the arm. So any pushing movements, if you're pushing like this or pushing above your head, those are the muscles that it will work, generally the front of the body. Then you have pull movements, anything where you're pulling something, if you're kind of levering something up, like a bicep curl, pulling something down overhead, any pulling movements like that, you're generally going to be working the back and the bicep, most of the muscles in the back and the biceps usually. And anything where you're doing a squat movement, meaning there's a significant bend in your knee, basically, you'll typically work mostly the front of your legs, but sometimes you work the back of the legs too. So it's generally a good idea to include at least one type of squat movement. You probably heard of lunges and then regular like goblet squats, bodyweight squats, etc. And then you have a hinge movement, which is where there's a hinge at the hip. And the point of this category is you have something that definitely trains the back of your legs. It doesn't need to be in every workout. As the example I'll show you in a second doesn't really include it, but it does include an exercise that works the back of your legs. So you could replace that hinge with an exercise that works the back of your legs. But if you have a movement that where you do hinge at the hips, chances are it is an exercise that works the back of the legs. So that's why I categorize it like that. Glutes and hamstrings. Glutes are your arse. Hamstrings are just the back of your legs. And then your core. Everyone knows that is it's your midsection. I personally don't include core exercises in every workout because it's not my priority. I'd rather see development in other areas of my body. But if I do 3-4 sessions across a week, I'll usually include at least one bout of core training in there, so it's not completely neglected. Okay, so I'm going to edit in a little video here where I run you through an example of this from a workout I've made that you can access as well if you decide to join our Skool group. So I'm going to show you an example of what I mean with the exercise categories now. And basically, this is our 3-day full body program for anyone in the Skool group. It has tutorials there attached in case people don't know what it actually includes. And this perfectly demonstrates the example of the push, pull, squat, hinge. And I've not included core in these ones, but in some of our other workouts down here I have. It's just based on what people actually request as a workout and what their goals are. So you can kind of add core into your heart's content afterwards, simply just because number one, you can train it at home, and number two, it recovers a lot faster than any other muscle group because there's generally more blood flow to it. Okay. So with this example here, the pin loaded chest press is like a pushing exercise. You can YouTube that yourself if you like. I've given someone 3 sets of 8 to 12, 2 minutes rest. On this is your pushing exercise. So you cover your chest, your shoulders, and your triceps. And the full body example here is easiest because that's where I try to cover all categories in each workout, except core in this instance. Whereas if it's not a full body, if it's like a lower, upper split, then all the categories are covered across the week rather than covered in one workout. Okay, so moving on. The one arm dumbbell row here, which is where you kneel on a bench and you're pulling a dumbbell towards you. It's like a row. Okay, this is a pull movement. So you're working the back and the biceps, like I mentioned in the categories. The leg press would be included in the squat category. So it works mostly the front of your legs. And the seated hamstring curl, this one's a bit different because it's technically not a hinge movement because your hips aren't really moving anywhere. Hinge is where your hips would generally be moving up and down or back and forwards. And the seated hamstring curl still works the same muscles that a hinge category movement would. The back of the legs, the hamstrings. Okay. If we scroll down here and look at the next day, day 2, we can see this is a squatting category. This glute drive one, which is where you sit into machine and push your hips up towards the ceiling, that's a hinge exercise where hip hinge there. So the back of the legs. Okay, so this one, top one, front of the legs. This one, back of the legs. Pec deck is a pushing, that's chest specifically. Seated dumbbell curl, curl is a pull. Okay, so again, all categories covered. And one more example here, the shoulder press is a push, it's just overhead. Lat pull down is where you're pulling something down. It's a pulling movement. Again, feel free to search up these exercises, or you can screenshot this and actually try this out yourself, or join the group. You'll have access to a few of them as well as the form feedback. Goblet squat, squatting category, and lying hamstring curl then same as above. So how much should you lift then? Well, there's no correct amount of weight to lift. It depends, which is probably the worst thing that you want to hear, but I will help you out with this. There is a correct threshold level of intensity. You know, earlier on I was talking about, I'll see if I can find it here. Where's it gone? Oh yeah, when it comes to effectively challenging the muscle, avoiding using momentum, and training close enough to failure. So this is what I mean by it when I talk about threshold level of intensity. It's like how close you are to failure, right? So there is a point there. It's roughly where this red line is. These numbers down here at the bottom represent the total reps that you could have done. Okay, so we have this blue line up here at the top. This is like the max amount of reps that you could have done for any exercise. Now, sure, this is 12 reps, but it's just for this example. Some movements might be 20 reps, some 15, but this blue line here represents the max, the top one. In the first example here, let's say we do 6 reps. We could have done 12, but we only do 6. We haven't actually met that threshold there, and so this is kind of a waste of time. It's just a bit of a warm-up. Not a complete waste of time, but it's like you could have easily gotten so much more from that movement if you did more reps. Okay. Or lifted more weight, because it would change this the max reps thing. Maybe your max reps then would only be 8, in which case then 6 reps would meet it if it was heavier weight. So that's how this can change, and there's no exact weight. Hopefully that's making sense. And in example 2 here, 10 reps. Okay, so 10 reps when you could have done 12 means there's like 2 reps left that you could have done. Maybe 1.5, right? And so you cross that threshold there, which is roughly 2.5 reps left in the tank. And so this exercise then becomes effective. You meet that threshold. So at a very minimum, you want to meet that threshold on at least one round or one set of the exercise you're doing. What you want to avoid is doing your last set, like finishing off that exercise and still feeling like you could have done like 3+ more reps. You want to be training closer to failure than that, unless the goal is like recovery or mobility or something like that. Okay? This is for toning up specifically, remember. If you have any questions on that, feel free to leave it in the comments or message me directly on social media. Instagram is probably the best place. So how to progress then? One of the biggest mistakes people make, and this is the last thing I want to touch over because I don't want this video to be fucking years long. One of the biggest mistakes people make here is just staying at the same weight until they feel it getting lighter, and then they move on. Okay, now generally if you implement this principle here, you will avoid that. But still, some people do that because they think it's safer and it's still somehow optimal for progress. They think they don't deserve to lift a heavier weight, but that's not true at all. It could take fucking ages to progress. Don't do it. Okay, you might never lift heavier. seeing more muscle definition, so your muscle adapting, apart from fat loss, which is nutrition. There's other videos I've made discussing that. It's a byproduct of your body being required to adapt to the work you're putting it through. There's no requirement, like I'll show you in the next slide. If you're capable of lifting what you're already lifting and you never increase the weight, why on earth would your muscles adapt so that they can lift heavier weight? There's no reason. Okay, that's how resistance training works. It's like it's a stimulus. We're pushing our body. We're telling our body, hey, we need to be able to do things that we can't currently do. I'm going to need you to adapt here and help me out. If your body can do all the things that you're currently trying to push it to do, then there's not a real reason for it to adapt. Okay, so that's why you need to be meeting this threshold level here, as I said, and that's why it doesn't make sense to just stay at the same weight until you feel it getting lighter. It's not that you feel a weight will get lighter. It's not how progress feels. Rather, you just have the capacity to use more force. Okay, it still feels just as heavy as it did at the beginning. All right. Now, this is a way you can implement it, and we do this with our clients as well. It's just called the 8 to 12 rep range. And basically, the way this works is you can use it with every exercise as a beginner. It doesn't need to be more complicated than this. And you have a full system here that you can steal from me that we use with our clients and can put into your own training program. Okay. So you'll see here on the left is maybe what you start out with. You want to be able to pick a weight that you can do in an exercise for 12 reps for 3 sets. So that's one set here, that's the second set, and that's the third set. Hopefully you can see the arrow here over it on this recording software. It's a new one I'm using. All right, so you do 20 kg, you can get 12 on it on all of them. If you can get 12 on all of them, then what you want to do, because it's the 8 to 12 rep range, what you want to do is go back down to 8 and increase the weight by one increment, which in dumbbells, anyways, if we take this, is usually 22.5 kilos. Okay, so then you're back at 8 reps. You might find that pretty easy, and that might be, even though you use more weight, that actually might be less work, but it's just to prove to yourself that you can do it, and it's to take away some of the fear of moving up a heavier weight because you have to do less reps. Then after that, you want to work your way up to 12 and all of them again with the new weight. Okay, so now you might push yourself the next one. It might be like 10 on the first set, 9, and then 9. So you have a bit of ways to go before you get 12, 12, and 12. But when you do, what do you do then? Well, it's going to be roughly 25 kilos on each one, and you're back down to 8 on all of them, and the process repeats. So this is something that you can use for yourself so that you have a system, a method for progressing your own program that's really simple. Okay, that's my goal with this. So hopefully you now have a much better understanding of how you can set up your own resistance training so that you can start to make changes in your muscle definition over time. So let's say you implemented this stuff for a year. Imagine where you could be at that point. This is powerful stuff. Most people aren't even consistent in the gym. And then on top of that, they don't really know what they're doing. Okay. If you can find out how to be consistent and watch my video on consistency as well, I have that on YouTube. It's the video titled I'm not sure why more people don't do this or something along those lines. I'll see if I can link it. Watch that so you can be consistent. And then if you know what you're doing in the gym and you're training right and you're meeting that threshold level of intensity, like I said, you're going to be miles above what other people are actually doing, unless they decide to get a coach, in which case they'll probably get everything right. So an example of someone then that worked with us for a year to show you what's possible. Now, this is Leanne. She's lost over 20 kilos in the program. And like I've seen people's self-esteem and confidence completely transformed when they've stuck to the gym for over a year when they haven't been doing that before. And it's gone on to positively affect their relationship, their career. She actually ended up getting a new job because she's more confident to apply to it. And for a lot of people as well, it's also set a good example for their kids. So think about the other areas of your life that this can affect as well if you do this. For maybe some technical stuff I went over, it doesn't seem too dramatic, but the downstream effects that this can have in your life when you get it right is absolutely huge, and it's worth overcoming that gym anxiety to get through. In this bottom picture here, she actually didn't even realize she could jump, because at the start she wasn't able to, and she was able to do her, I think, 2 pull-ups there before not being able to do any more at the end of the program, which is insane because a lot of people don't think they'll ever be able to do a pull-up because of their weight or their current fitness levels, and that was within a year. Okay, so quick note then, if you want us to coach you through a step-by-step process on getting results like we help Leanne with, you can apply to work with one of our expert coaches through the link below. Now, if you're watching this through not on YouTube, you won't be able to do this. You can just message me on YouTube. The link will be below. We will build you out a custom workout program and hold you accountable to transforming your body composition so that you can completely turn around your self esteem and feel good in your clothes again. Okay, so we'll set that up for you and we'll make sure that we hold you accountable so that you can get there even on the days where you're not feeling very motivated. If you want to learn more about that, you can click the link below. If not, keep watching the videos and yeah, stay tuned for more. Hope this helps.